He has spoken on the topics faith, family and freedom in Cuba, Belgium, Brazil, Congo, UK and all over the USA to crowds from 14 to 40,000. International leadership speaker, trainer and coach. Author of Learn to Raw Leadership, Attitude Hack, Live a More Excellent Life, 5 Battle Strategies of a Victorious Warrior. 2021 President's Lifetime Achievement Award recipient. Founding partner of the John Maxwell team. Toastmaster International Speech Competition semi-finalist. Founder of Tell It Like It Is TV, ThatGuyRocks.com and ThatGuySpeaks.com. Creator of Story Power TV, Transforming Grace TV, and Leading Leaders Podcast. Producer of 4 TV programs and podcasts for Liftable TV and World Trumpet Television as well as multiple social media channels. Please help me welcome J Loren Norris.
Have you ever had a bug appear in the middle of something you're trying to do? You know, like one of those big bugs that come out of the lake. They look like a roach. Actually, they think they are the roach family. Most people call them water bugs because they're like big enough to carry away a small car. Have you ever had one of those, or a locust, or a honeybee, or a wasp show up in the middle of a project that takes all of your focus? Maybe you got a chainsaw in your hand. It's happened to me. Maybe you're target practicing. It's happened to me. One of my offspring nearly shot me in the head because a bumblebee flew into their face in the middle of a target practicing. It was a really frightening moment. See, leaders have the same problem. These pointless distractions come around sometimes, and they not only take our attention away from what we're doing, but they can cause us to make incredibly dangerous, reckless decisions. And that's what I want to talk about in this episode of Leading Leaders. Subscribe now for our extensive video library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast. And I can tell you through the course of my life, both in leadership and just regular old living, there have been a lot of instances, a lot of opportunities for things to go awry because of distractions that were unexpected. Sometimes those distractions, not extractions. That would be like pulling a tooth or removing somebody from a harmful situation. But a distraction, something that takes your attention away from what your attention is supposed to be on. It's amazing how subtle those distractions can be. And it's also amazing that sometimes they're intentional. Have you watched the movie yet, Now You See Me? The closer you look, the less you see. There's a little meme floating around on social media right now, the scene where they broke into the coveted place with the microchip embedded in the playing card. And they were able to bounce it around from side to side with the distractions of, well, what about my wallet? And accidentally bumping into the giant gong. And the list went on and on and on. But everything they did was a planned distraction, designed to take your eye off the ball. Kind of like when you play amateur softball and somebody's yelling in the backfield, hey, batter, swing! They want you to swing at the time that they yell swing, and that's never at the right time to swing, but they're just a planned distraction. Leaders need to understand that these planned distractions sometimes are completely unplanned, but often they are planned. They're planned by your competitors. They're planned, it almost seems like, by the universe to test you, to test your distraction. I've been watching with my wife this show called Special Forces, where they actually take celebrities and put them in different environments and just to put them under pressure and see how they react. And one of the tests that they force them into is to walk into cold water, like frigid, you could die from hypothermia if you're in this water too long kind of water, that shuts down your central nervous system and redirects all the blood in your body to your core elements so you can actually live, which is why a lot of people end up with amputations and other long-term effects of super cold water. These people walk into the water up to their neck, and then they submerge themselves. And when they come back up, they're expected to recite something that they've memorized only 24 hours before. Complicated information, acrostics. And they're supposed to be able to tell you all the meanings of all these words in the matter of time that it takes them to come back up out of the cold water. Well, the reason for this test is because your ability in your physical body, in association with your mental faculty, they're all in crisis because of the cold water. That's called a forced distraction. And the question really is, can you focus in that environment? Well, another show we like to watch is called SEAL Team. And we saw in this last episode of SEAL Team, or at least the last one we watched, one of the top operators go back into a moment in his mind of PTSD, and in that moment, he froze. Now, we don't like to admit it, but the truth of the matter is a lot of the distractions we deal with in our life, they're not external. They're not planned. It's not like somebody else around us has planned these distractions to take our attention away from what we're doing. No, they're our own internal emotions, our own memories, maybe failures of the past, mistakes that we've made on our own, hurt from other relationships, times that we failed someone we cared deeply about. And those mental distractions are purely internal. See, the real challenge that we have as leaders is that we've got to know the difference between those planned distractions from the outside. Maybe it's changes in the market. Maybe it's changes in policy. Maybe it's the work of your competitors. Maybe your competitors are actually doing things in their advertising to get your attention so that you take your eye off the ball of your own productivity, your own success, your own training, your own development. And as you do, they get the upper hand. They get an advantage. I remember back in some of my marketing and advertising training, they talked about Avis as a car rental company. And back in the day, they were little known. And one of their ad campaigns actually said, Avis, we're number 2. They didn't point out who was number 1. They didn't point out who was number 3. They just pointed out the fact we're not the very best, but we're really, really close. And our prices are better. It's hard sometimes not to pay attention to distractions like that when you're number 3 or number 1, to look at them and go, well, are they really that close to us? Are they as good as us? Do they offer a better price than us? How are we different? How do we distinguish ourselves? Oh, we're number 2. That's a pretty good planned distraction. But the real question for you as a leader is, how many of the distractions are pointless distractions that are either self-originated or are organizationally originated? People drama? I mean, have you ever had to fire anybody? Have you noticed the kind of pointless distractions that go along with that? Maybe even if you fire them for cause because they're stealing or embezzling or not showing up to work on time or not meeting the quotas or not doing the job as it was outlined. All of those are good reasons to let somebody go. But if they have made friends, if they have people on the inside, so to speak, that care about them as a person rather than a part of the team, a productive member of the team, then these personal relationships are going to become very potentially pointless distractions. They will be the way that they look at the world through the lens of that individual. Oh, but what about their Christmas party? What about their family over their vacation? What about they just built a new house. They just installed a pool. Anybody remember Christmas Vacation? Chevy Chase, the Jelly of the Month Club? He was expecting a $40,000 bonus for Christmas because that's what he'd always gotten. And then suddenly Jelly of the Month Club means you're not putting a pool in the ground. You're not going on vacation. You're not doing all these things you thought you were going to do. Pointless distractions or dealing with humanity. See, the company had a whole lot to deal with, especially when Cousin Ed showed up and started doing his thing. But every day we have these pointless distractions. Competitors, the marketplace, prices fluctuating. I mean, we're in a season right now where there are wars all over the world, and all of them stand the potential of absolutely wrecking the flow of fuel. Heating fuel with the winter coming, gasoline at the pump, not just on my street, but on your street and all over the world. Literally all over the world. These skirmishes, these wars, these disagreements, whether it's over race or religion or politics or territory or dirt, they're not localized. They don't happen just in one space. No, they happen all over the world. And when they happen, they impact people all over the world. I mean, remember back to 9/11. I know that's been a couple of decades ago, but if you think back to 9/11, it had a very similar impact to what the pandemic did just a couple of years ago. Tourism in New York is a huge amount of the cash flow. The GDP of New York is directly tied to tourism. Well, in the Gulf Coast, it was directly tied to tourism until the BP oil spill. And there were a whole lot of small businesses, family businesses that shut down and pulled out. Israel has a lot of tourism. On average, they'll see 2.5 to 5 million people come to their nation over the course of a year just for tourism. This year, they were on target for about 4 million. Well, that's probably going to change for the next several months because of the state of the being of their buildings and their ability to serve a tour company, a tour bus, a jet that lands full of people who want to come and visit. They're not going to be able to buy things, which means all the people on the ground in every walk of life are not going to have the cash flow they would have had. Now, if you live in those areas in New York after 9/11, in the Midwest after tornadoes and storms blow through, and the Gulf Coast after a hurricane, and the coasts of Florida or Texas or Mississippi after the BP oil spill, your life isn't distracted. It's disrupted. Those are totally different things. That's not what I'm talking about. No, those rewrite the course of your future if you're not careful. Now, if you've got a strategic plan in place that says in the event of one of these major, unavoidable, unforeseeable circumstances, we have a backup plan, we have a plan B and a plan C. Maybe if your finances are set aside in such a way that you can weather a storm like that, then all is well. That's good, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about those things like a honeybee flying in your face when you got a hammer in your hand. Or flying in your face when you got a chainsaw in your hand. Distractions, pointless distractions. Are they risky? Well, yeah. I mean, if you get stung on the end of your nose by a bumblebee, you're gonna feel that for a minute. But if you try to use the chainsaw to kill the bumblebee, chances are you're gonna do a whole lot more damage than a bee sting on the end of your nose. That's the kind of pointless distraction that I'm talking about. And sometimes those distractions, they're planned. They're psyops. Like, see me now. Look over there. Pay attention to that. And they're doing that on purpose. Your competitors, your internal team, life as a whole. Sometimes it's to test your resolve. Sometimes it's to test your wherewithal. Can you stay calm under pressure? Can you face a distraction and keep your focus? How many times have we seen bicycle crashes in a big bicycle race, and that one crash takes out 20 riders? What caused that crash? Chances are it was a distraction. Bump in the road, a moving piece of gravel, a look down at my tire. All of these things can happen, but they can be devastating impact, not just for you, but the people around you. As a leader, if you do have a moment where you freeze up and you can't make a decision, it could cost somebody their job. It could cost you your organization. It could be short-term or long-term damage. It could eventually bring about your demise when you take your eye off the ball. Yeah, you can't say that Enron was a distraction. But the behavior of the people at the leadership, they were not focused on what they were supposed to be doing. And they brought about the demise of the entire organization. They changed law. They changed tax law. They changed the relationship of a lot of people who were expecting to cash out in their retirement and be sitting pretty, and now they're probably working as a greeter somewhere because there's nothing left of their retirement. Sometimes when people at the very top, policymakers, government leaders, CEOs of major corporations, make these changes, because in the moment it seems like the right thing to do for all of society. I just saw a post yesterday that the NHL has decided not to use a specific kind of tape on their hockey sticks. Not going to be allowed. And there are people who are throwing a temper tantrum because of that. Kind of like happened with the NBA and certain t-shirts or tennis shoes or headgear or behavior with regard to the national anthem. And all of those, I look at it and say, you know, I thought these were teams that were involved in major sports. But think about the NFL, the NBA, the major baseball, hockey, tennis, soccer, any of those that are at the national level. Everybody in the world knows who they are. Maybe they're competing in the Olympics. And along comes this little, love affair, a mistake, a relationship that gets blown up in the national media. Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, something like that. And all of a sudden, all the media attention is on that. Everybody's looking at that. And then you have to wonder, can people of that caliber still perform at that highest level with all these distractions going on? Again, we have to look back to somebody like a Johnny Manziel and go, how many distractions can one person handle? Whether they're self-inflicted or they're cultural or they're societal or they're political. How many big companies have been distracted by just trying to appease the masses just for a moment? Bud Light, Target. You know, Target not only has lost what they've lost to looting, they've taken multiple steps to try to avert that looting, but they've also been directly involved in some of the policy making that made the looting possible. And then they realized perhaps we've gone too far. And now in many places, that organization isn't just reeling from the losses. Last I heard was somewhere around $500 million in lost revenue between the stores that were damaged and the product that's been looted. Changes in policies that they supported in some areas to change the law on what is shoplifting. What are the levels of the legal limits? Who actually has to pay bail, or who just walks in the door and walks out again and takes what they want to and nobody says anything. They've retrained their employees on how to handle a moment like this, how to de-escalate and not start a fight, how not to risk the lives of their employees over a physical thing that can be repurchased. But at some point, what was a social distraction of relationships between one group of people and another has rewritten the policy, and now 9 stores in major cities are being closed, completely shut. Doors barred, product gone. No more ability for consumers in that area to even buy product there. Why? Distractions. When we lose focus on the mission that we actually have, when we forget about what we're supposed to be doing, and we focus instead on the narrative, on the societal good for the moment, understanding that society is fickle, culture can be fickle. It's going to change in the next 15 minutes. I mean, today I don't see anybody gathering around to tear down statues, but it could happen in the next 15 minutes. I remember watching the videos, very similar to the young people who glued themselves to the world-famous art that is now utterly destroyed and threw soup cans on it. Their objective was to draw attention. In all honesty, I think you'd be hard-pressed to recall what it was they were drawing attention to besides themselves. Narcissism. They so want the focus and the attention, they'll do whatever it takes to get attention. And if they see that it's trending on social media, if it's trending in the news, if it's happening and people are talking about it, I should get in on it because maybe I'll get famous too. If I do what they did that made them famous, maybe I'll get famous too. And if I get famous, if I become an influencer. And by that I mean that a whole lot of people watch me act a fool sometimes. If I become that kind of influencer, if I get that kind of attention, then I can be wealthy from 15 minutes of notoriety, even if that notoriety exposes my foolishness. See, these are intentional distractions. These are pointless distractions. And if as an organization you bend your will to the point of these distractions, if you follow along the course, I challenge you. I'd love it if somebody could type in the comments the purpose of gluing yourself to a painting. What was the point they were trying to make? What issue were they calling attention to? Most people can't remember, but they don't remember the tomato soup thrown at the painting, or they don't forget that. They don't forget the kids gluing themselves to it or to the floor. The ones sitting in the streets, blocking the highways. What is that about? Do we know? Do we remember? No, but they can become a distraction. And if you as an organization get sucked into that, you could change the entire direction of your organization like Target has, like Bud Light has, and find yourselves in the moment following the trend. And in a moment later, the trend is gone and your damage is undoable. Pointless distractions. Somebody had a point. Somebody allowed that distraction to reach the magnitude that it has on purpose. Don't allow yourself as a leader to be a victim of it. Not of the drama internally, of the people, personnel problems within your organization, not of the cultural, societal issues that have nothing to do with your mission. These are pointless distractions that will keep you from succeeding. But remember too, a lot of those pointless distractions started in your head. They started with your own drama, your own trauma, your own personal experiences, the things that you've been through, but you haven't been able to sort out your past from your future. You haven't been able to focus on the things at hand. You've been too distracted with the pointless distractions going on in your emotions. If you're struggling with that, get some help. Get a coach, get a leader, get a counselor. Talk it out. Become more aware of these distractions before they take over. Because in the same way that a bumblebee flying in front of your face when you have a chainsaw in your hand can be a lethal distraction to you and anybody around you, some of the decisions that you make while you're driving, some of the decisions you make at the helm of a large company, they have much deeper ramifications than just your comfort and your success. I challenge you to not allow those pointless distractions to take you off point of your focused assignment. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast for Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.
Lauren is a master teacher on storytelling, and I learned so much. I'm really going to have to sit down and go back through everything, and I think I might have to have some more coffees with Lauren, but it was totally worth my time, and I really highly recommend it if you're looking to grow your ministry, grow your business, grow your career. Lauren will serve you well.